Carry on. It's been a long time coming, but I know change gon' come. Oh, yes it will.
All right, Facebook crew, sorry about that. Having some snafus here. We're trying to perfect things. So, Ro, I don't think we've got it set here. 29 days now since that baby was killed on I-10. LaMelo, 29 days. And to this date, ladies and gentlemen, still no response outside of what we heard from the coroner's office, which is the information won't be released until there's a trial. We've not heard from the district attorneys to indicate that there's a trial. I want to make sure you understand my position on this because it's important, especially after Monday. One life is too many to be swept under the rug. There has to be an explanation when there is a homicide, particularly at the hands of the law or while in custody of the law. If you don't do this, then we end up with what we had with Black Wall Street, right? If there is no investigation. There is an investigation, so now what is the explanation? As a result of this investigation, there's an explanation for why this 4-month-old was killed. Let the chips fall where they may. The way you keep this from happening is that we, the people, have to make government, law enforcement, and those who hire them, politicians, responsible. It's called accountability. In a democracy, it is extraordinarily important that you have that. If you don't have accountability, you don't really have a democracy. You have really totalitarianism or maybe even a dictatorship. Despotism is what you had under the double-impeached Donald John. He was a despot. He still is. He's a despot right now with the Republican Party, which is why they are the Trumplicans. You don't want to admit that. But I do. He's doing exactly what despots do, and that is operate from a position of fear. And what are the Republicans afraid of? Being primaried. They just want to keep their nice padded jobs like good old boys supposed to do. Every time you hear conservative, you need to understand you're dealing with a good old boy. They have led you to believe over the years that they're the populists. Boy, that's some manipulation. I'll get to that later. It really is, and look, I don't doubt that. We think we call that mass hypnosis by Adolf Hitler. I don't know whether it's not even mass hypnosis when someone willingly goes along. I mean, it's more or less like Jim Jones. Where's the Kool-Aid? Let me drink it. I just want to believe so much in this man that the crazy stuff that he says doesn't matter. I just assume go to life ever after. False prophet. So LaMelo is now buried with his mama. That's exactly how he was buried. In the casket, he was lying on his mother, who was killed by his father. Tragic situation. All of it. We've now seen a rash of that kind of gunplay, and yes, I'll get to that in a minute. But before I leave LaMelo, you need to understand that this explanation, this innocence, merits some kind of explanation at the hands of we, the people here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. You do realize we were represented by a Harrison County deputy, a Gulfport police officer, and state troopers. That's all of us. That's all of us. All of us were there that day because we sent our representatives, those individuals who take an oath, right, to protect and defend all of us on behalf of all of us. Our tax dollars paid for the state trooper. City of Gulfport tax dollars, of which I'm a citizen, pay for the law enforcement there that participated in the shooting. And then, of course, we are also in Harrison County. Our tax dollars, if you live in Harrison County, your tax dollars paid for that as well. Every bullet was paid for by Mississippi taxpayers. And I'd be damned if I'm going to let elected officials or those who are appointed get away with no explanation for how you spent the money. I know what rounds cost. Buy them all the time. Whatever they are. Buy them all the time. I'm not going to tell you which rounds because you don't need to know everything I have. Really dumb when I hear, but it's really dumb when I hear gun enthusiasts go out and just kind of brag about all that. Y'all are so it's dumb. And actually, thank goodness they do, because then you're able to know that's what kind of folks they are. They just like the gear. They just, why have it if you can't show it and have fun with it? And it makes me wonder about what happened on that infamous day that LaMelo was killed, whether there was individuals who were just seeking to shoot up that vehicle knowing that baby was in there. Prove me wrong. I want to be. All I want is good police work, and all of this is good police work. When you catch a criminal or when you find out that someone is not following the standards, even though they wear the same uniform as you, that is good police work. If it were not, you wouldn't have internal investigations, folks. Internal affairs is just about in every police force for good reason, and it is to evaluate whether or not we're maintaining those standards for the sake of the public. Joe, you disappoint me. He did not call for a criminal investigation. You have him over there?
Yeah.
You know, before we play that, Joe Biden has a way of appealing to your senses, and especially your sense of grief. He's had his fair share. His first wife, his baby girl killed, lost his son Bo, and he's had his fair share. There's no doubt. Been a heck of a cross, heavy burden for Joe, and he relates to many people who are going through bereavement, right? Who've had some losses, and trust me, when you've had that, then you are in some cases able to identify with the grief of some folks. I didn't know what it was like. I shared with you before in Mother's Day. I didn't know what it was like to not have a mama when I had my mama. I used to always wonder when I was in church and some of the ushers, some of the older individuals had white roses and I had a red rose. If you had a red rose, it means your mama was living. If you had a white rose, it means your mama was dead. I used to always see them with the white rose and think, I told you this stuff. What that must be like. The idea of losing your parents is just incomprehensible for those of us who had not gone through it, you see. And I thought to myself, these people with the white roses must really envy me now because I have a red rose. As a child, that's how you think. Mine had color, yours doesn't. Oh, look at it, all of us have red roses, they don't. Then I thought to myself, they must be pretty sad. Envious, but really sad. And then you look at your mama and you think to yourself, could that actually happen? One day she'll be gone? As I said on Mother's Day, I'll say it again now. Yeah, I know what it's like. And there's no explanation. You cannot explain that, but you can identify with the grief of someone who's lost a loved one. It's very difficult for you to do that. I don't go to funerals. I don't plan on having one either, because I don't find any I don't find that consoling, and I console individuals that I care about when they've had great loss in other ways. I find it to be more of a parade in some cases, for those individuals who want to confirm that, yeah, you are dead. And it serves more from a grieving standpoint for me to see others who are grieving. You get me? I don't, because I'd had such incredible times with my mom and my father, long times, longevity runs in my family. I was very, very, what made me more sad was the fact that many of the people who knew my parents did not have as much time with them as I did. So I was sad for them, But I digress. Now I'm sad for a very, very short life that was screaming after the bullet stopped. 4-month-old LaMelo Park. Like in this case, I don't know what it's like. I could not imagine losing a child, an infant. And I don't want to know. I don't. But to lose your mom, your dad, and an infant, and now you've got 4 siblings sitting out there somewhere. Who do you blame for that? Life? God? No, really. I wasn't just throwing that in. I mean, you do realize if, in fact, you're one of those who believe that God controls all, well, that's in God's category. And I don't want to get into any explanation, and I'm not being sacrilegious. In my view, they're the ones you blame is those who did it, right? And the one who did it, allegedly, good evidence that he did, was the father. However, that may not have been the case with LaMelo. That may not have been the case with LaMelo. So we need to find out what happened there. Easy to do. Difficult to do, however, according to my ballistics expert, if in fact the father, I use that term loosely, did in fact use a gun, then the question is did he in fact shoot his own son? According to him, it all depends on where that weapon was found. Was it outside the car? Was it inside the car? I have gotten, look, folks, it's unsubstantiated. I'm only going by individuals who say that they were witness to this. It's a very great possibility that there was no weapon at all. And there's also a very great possibility that that weapon was dropped outside the door. I'm just saying. When such time we don't have any cognitive evidence, then you're left to speculate. And not only will Rip Daniels speculate, but several individuals who witnessed this are speculating. The individuals I've chatted with have all said they heard a shot, they did not see a shot. They didn't see it. It was like pow, 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 pow. And so I asked him, can you say that Smith did not shoot? He said, no, I can't, but we just didn't see. We didn't see a shot. And that's not unusual. It might take a very trained eye to see the muzzle flash, muzzle smoke. Maybe. All right, but I'll be counting down tomorrow as well for the politician who felt that it is non-productive. I appreciate you calling me. Appreciate you even chatting about this and showing your remorse and demonstrating that, we all feel bad about that, Rip. I got you. Now, I'm not going to give you a name. I told you I wouldn't. I'm not. And the things I told you was off the record. They're off the record. But since you decided to suggest to me that it really does anybody any good, just all it does is keep people hyped up. No, it doesn't. It keeps us vigilant. And maybe you don't want that. I want that. That is, after all, what commentary is all about. That's what good broadcasting is all about. It reminds you that there's some unfinished business. And trust me on this, I get more than enough support from my listeners. More than enough support from my listeners saying, thank you, Rip. Periodically, I fall on my knees and pray that we found out what happened to. So, sir, ma'am, don't want to give it away. Just want to let you know I appreciate your concerns, but your suggestion that somehow or another it does no good, it does every bit of good. Maybe you need to listen to that scream you heard over the sirens. maybe then you'll understand why there are those just like me who are going, man, that baby was alive. All right, back to Joe. So Joe Biden goes there. You got. Let me give you some context there. You do realize that there was a commemoration last year. You remember this when the good folks there of Tulsa was trying to meet, and unfortunately, or I guess maybe if you are a Trumpian or a maggot, then you would say fortunately, Donald John wanted to have his rally. Remember that?
I do.
Anybody remember that? That's his hand. He was cautioned by Fauci and others not to have a rally get together because, after all, we were in the midst of a pandemic, which he denied, which the president denied. He's going to have his rally anyway. We're going to go right there. And, by the way, the good folks there have talked, said, well, now, can you postpone it? Because on the same day, we're going to be commemorating Black Wall Street. No, we're going in there anyway. Remember that? There were some concerns over whether or not there would be some protest. You know, keep the Black Lives Matter Negroes out. And they had the armed guards everywhere. And you remember all this?
I do.
Turn the clock forward 1 year, now you have a president going back because that nitwit is out. Thank God for that. But more than that, more than the little petty insults, Rep. Daniels, the point is, do you guys realize just what what kind of person would do this? For those of you who are, still maggots, got your maggot hats. You realize you have any idea, knowing that there was a commemoration, Black Wall Street, Greenwood, knowing that now there's mass graves, here this guy goes in here anyway, and for no other reason. You understand? This is his playbook. I'm going to show you, I'm going to go right in the heart of the protesters. I don't have any consideration whatsoever for 10,000 people being uprooted and become refugees. I don't give a damn. I'm just going to show you. That's what being a proud white boy is. End quotes. I'm telling you that works. It really does work. I heard that actually from several. Richard Barrett, of course, I was about to say God bless his soul. I'm not going to say that because I don't mean that. God ain't bless him. Richard Barrett, if you remember that. Of course, David Duke. I heard it from him too. Really, he said, well, look, you know how we maintain our strength is that we at least give the impression I'm going right in the face. That's why I had several interviews with David Duke. It was like, well, look, I'm just going to talk to Rip Daniels. Huh. He ain't scared. That's what real white boys do. Super white boys, Superman. End quote. No, really. They get their bones like that until you punk them out. See? As long as they've got the boys behind them, that's why you're always going to see, like in George Floyd's case, 4 against 1. Every other case you'll find, you're always going to have that dynamic. They got to have, the mayor rights, you got 2 against 1, plus all the guns. In Oklahoma, you're going to have, let's see, the guns, 3,000 plus planes and bombs. Oh, the same thing with, Hattiesburg there, with Vernon Damer, right?
Rosewood.
Yeah. They had the 2 carloads of Klansmen, Sam Bowers and his boys, rolled up there, and one African-American man defending his family with a carbine. He runs them off. But, of course, they get bravado when it's nice gang kind of situation, or Klan, whichever you want to call it. Am I being too honest? I should be. I'm actually warning other would-be naive African-Americans about how this works. This is how this works, folks. It really is. I've always seen this. I saw it first in integration. It was believed that, just because I'm African-American, I could fight. They're right. I didn't see anything wrong with that. But it was like 8 against 1 outside of the bowling alley, Mid-City bowling alley on Courthouse Road. 8 against 2. I think it was 2 of us. Wasn't it, Lewis? Yeah, 2 of us. Maybe one girl, I think Vanessa left. It's a true story. So these, 8, 12, went outside, going to wait. To which I went to the attendant and said, well, look, you got these guys out here. We just wanted to shoot some pool. To which he says to me, well, okay. I don't have anything to do with outside. To do with the parking lot. Well, I don't have anything to do with inside. I said, well, they want to scrap out there. They want to fight. He said, well, I heard you people can fight. He was right.
Yeah, I mean.
A little outnumbered. But it's okay. We made it through that, didn't we, Louis? And then, of course, I rounded up my own little posse, went back. Didn't go well for them. The individuals who are now very, very religious people, I don't want to call them out. I take that back, I will. Actually, two of which, one is a preacher right now. Hi, Sam. What about you, Perv? Remember that? Shed? Even my dear friend, Booby. I'm not going to give the last names. I'm not. Why are you laughing? It was hey-ho time at the bowling alley that night. I can tell you that right now. Hey-ho time. Oh, I digress. However, you see, ladies and gentlemen, this is always the playbook. It's always outnumbered, always, always, okay, we'll get out. They saw it on Birth of a Nation. That movie that played right at about 3 years. Maybe 4 years. Before the Black Wall Street. That movie. I emailed you about another situation there in Louisiana. I wish you'd pull it up and give me the copies of it. In and around 1919. It was a big thing. After the Birth of a Nation, trust me on this, a lot of cities like Greenwood, Rosewood, all of those around that time. Boy, it was rough. It was rough then, bro. Churches were burning at a clip, too. All right. A 12-year-old and a 14-year-old with AK-47s survived. I wonder why. They were firing on deputies.
They were?
I've got to throw this in because it's just odd, strange, unusual, queer. But it is, I'm just telling you, I just would never have thought this. But Volusia County, that's near Tallahassee there, I think. Or Tallahassee and Volusia, one or the other. So how does a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old get an AK-47, Ro?
They break into a house of a heavily, heavily armed individual. You want to hear about it?
Yeah.
Developing this morning, a dangerous situation involving kids in a Volusia County neighborhood. Deputies say they had no choice but to return fire after a 12 and 14-year-old started shooting at them. And one of those kids was armed with an AK-47. This happened last night at a home along Enterprise Osteen Road, east of I-4. Mark Lehman is there live for us this morning. And Mark, deputies say they tried for hours to de-escalate this.
Yeah, the sheriff says deputies made several efforts to try and calm things down at this home here last night. But on every occasion, the sheriff says deputies were met by gunfire from the children who broke into this home. The sheriff expressing disbelief over what happened and outrage over what he calls a failed juvenile justice system.
This is something I've never seen in 35 years of policing.
The Volusia County Sheriff's Office surrounding a home in Enterprise on Tuesday where they say two children, just 12 and 14 years old, opened fire on deputies.
And here's an indication of a 14-year-old and a 12-year-old have it so bad in life that they're going to defy law enforcement and engage them in a gun battle.
Sheriff Mike Chitwood says the children ran away from a group home, a place they responded to nearly 300 times last year.
What the hell is the Department of Juvenile Justice doing sending these kids to places that can't handle them?
According to investigators, the 12-year-old boy and 14-year-old girl broke into a nearby home where they found a shotgun and AK-47. Chitwood says the deputies were met with gunfire as they tried to de-escalate the situation.
But they took rounds, multiple rounds, before they were left with no other choice but to return fire.
The girl was shot by deputies and rushed to the hospital. The boy was then taken into custody after surrendering.
Thankfully, I have deputies who are going home to their families because they knew what to do. They were well trained.
No deputies were injured in the gunfire, and we're told the 14-year-old girl is stable after undergoing surgery for life-threatening injuries. Both children are now facing felony charges. As for the group home they ran away from, today we are looking into its history, and we'll keep you updated with what we learn. For now, reporting live in Volusia County, Mark Lehman, Getting Results, News 6.
Mark, thank
you. So what do you think, hero? Young terrorist or terrorist wannabe? 14 years old?
Yeah.
They lived through it, too. Tamir Rice didn't live through that.
He did not.
He didn't even have a gun. He had a little pellet pistol, air gun.
Right, he did. He did indeed. I wouldn't go as far as to say terrorism. They didn't go that far. We noticed they didn't indicate the race of either child. I do have...
Does that make a difference?
Does it make a difference? Usually when we're talking about terrorism, it makes a difference.
Oh, okay.
I
don't know if it was terrorism. They just broke in, burglarized the house, and got some guns.
Yeah. So, runaways is what it looks like right now. The sheriff did indicate that the boy was a diabetic.
Yeah, he's insulin. He was on insulin.
Required insulin every 4 hours.
Got to have shots.
Yeah.
Maybe he was a diabetic. They're going to give some explanation. He had a diabetic reaction.
Possible mental reaction or emotional breakdown, perhaps, due to lack of insulin. The girl was described as being a puppy thief.
She stole puppies. Oh, she's boys. Her name is dirty now.
Yeah, she stole puppies, and then she got placed in a home that she subsequently burnt down. So then she was put back in the Volusia County Child.
So she was put in a home, and then she burned it down. Mm-hmm. Oh, these got to be Caucasian kids.
I would venture to think so, yeah.
I mean, not that it should make a difference, and not that it doesn't either.
Well, I mean, when we look at the facts as they are,
they weren't killed, so that speaks volumes.
Hours-long standoff.
They had an AK. Don't get me wrong, good police work.
Right.
Excellent police work. They were seen as being, like they mattered. I mean, when you think that someone matters, then when you can see, inside of your, should I say, suspect, and when you see yourself or see your children. Mm-hmm. They matter. And I might be wrong. Oh, here's a confirmation.
What's that?
They were referred to, he described the Jackson O'Brien, wait a minute, I think I have a name here. They described them as Bonnie and Clyde. They shot deputies from several vantage points in the home. Deputies immediately applied tourniquets and rendered... Did you read all of this?
Yeah.
Oh, is this new?
No. I went over that before I gave it to you.
Deputies showed more restraint. They took multiple... and I know the facts. I know from the radio transmission that a 12-year-old opened fire on us. I know that 14-year-old opened fire on us with a shotgun and then walked out and threatened one of my sergeants. Told him she was going to kill him. And he didn't return fire. But after she came out of the garage, there was nothing left that he could do, meaning the officer. We had to do what we had to do. Deputies immediately applied tourniquets and rendered, so she was shot, the female was shot.
Right, the older, the 14-year-old.
They applied tourniquets and so forth. Also, they gave some aid to the boy who was still armed with an AK.
Mm-hmm. She had the shotgun. The boy had the AK.
Well, they keep saying here that neither the boy nor any deputies were injured, so the boy was not injured, I guess, either. But they say here, O'Brien, who is this? Is that the boy? O'Brien dropped the gun about 30 seconds later.
Let me confirm that.
They're saying O'Brien. Did I just get something you didn't? Maybe so. Maybe so. They were described as a Bonnie and Clyde. I would say that maybe they're the Caucasian kids in upper class neighborhood. And was able to go into a nice house that had a whole bunch of guns, and they were given the benefit of the doubt.
Oh, wow, you're right. They have both now been identified.
Yeah, I knew. I'm sitting here looking at this. O'Brien and
Jackson is the girl.
and Jackson. And that's unusual. Didn't get the first name.
I have the first name.
Do you have the first name? Oh, you've got one on me then. So give me the first name.
12-year-old is Travis O'Brien. 14-year-old
all right,
Nicole Jackson.
Travis Nicole. Now, Nicole.
And the reason why we can say these names is because they're facing felony charges of attempted first-degree murder of law enforcement officers and armed burglary.
Where did they get this idea from? Where did this come from? Well, TV?
Rap
TV.
Rap music.
Rap music?
Rap music. Well, not so much anymore.
Of course, we're going to talk about a lot of gunfire, and hopefully we'll have some conversation about it and some examples as to what to do about it. I've been here before, and we'll be here again. May weigh in on a little situation that happened at a meeting I went to last night regarding a connector road and a dike. Tell you about that, too. But I want to, before I go off, we're going to spend a little time on Joe Biden here. Here's my question I'm going to put on Facebook. Why do you think it is that there's a reluctance to file criminal charges against bigots? And this, I know it's not rhetorical, it really is. There is a reluctance. I mean, there was very reluctance to file charges against Byron D. LeBeckwith or Sam Bowers. They're always given the benefit of the doubt. But when it comes to other people, you shoot first, ask questions later, or you will willy-nilly charge them without a shred of evidence. Why do you think that is? Just go to our Facebook page and answer it. Joe Biden disappointed me greatly by not calling for a criminal investigation of what happened to potentially 300 people who were killed 100 years ago. There is no statute of limitations. There is no statute of limitations on murder. You do understand that just 2017, 2018 Congress passed the Cold Case Records Collection Act? Yeah. And actually, even right now, Joe Biden has activated the Cold Case Initiative for the FBI. When did this stop being that is what gets me on this, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, you can't get no greater case for civil rights violation from a federal level than 1,000 properties burned, 10,000 people displaced, plenty of evidence, plenty of names. And you got to wonder where the bodies are buried and not go out and ask the people who dug those holes or their kids who know that where their grandpa dug those holes. This is one generation removed. It's like you've got people who are survivors. You got people who are survivors of the antagonist. It's always like that, however. It's always, okay, yeah, well, you always got the ones who are crying and the ones who are still mad. While you're sitting there crying about 300 people's lives lost, the others are mad because you crying. Yeah, I'll kill your parents. I'll kill your great-grandparents. I'll do it again. Because I'm not accountable for it. No one's going to charge me. That, ladies and gentlemen, has been the history of white bigoted privilege in this country since the beginning of this country, and that's what got to stop. We'll be back.
Now existing customers and new customers get our best phone deal. Existing C-Spire customers, new C-Spire customers. You might be saying, existing and new customers? That's everybody.